Welcome to the Health KPI podcast, formerly known as the Burnout Expert podcast. In episode 1 to 35, we focused on stress from a burnout perspective, featuring solo episodes and interviews. Interestingly, during every burnout interview, none of the individuals realized they were experiencing burnout. Not one realized they were experiencing burnout until they were already on the path to recovery. So now, starting from episode 36 on, we are changing our approach, changing our name, and looking through the lens of performance. I will begin with solo episodes where I'll teach you how to track essential health data, eliminate guesswork, and save you time and money while enhancing your performance. It is time to take tangible progress in improving your sleep, energy, focus, and moods, which will ultimately boost your productivity, performance, and leadership capabilities in both your career and your home life with your family. Every episode will be beneficial to you. So let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Burnout Expert podcast. Today we have an interview that is absolutely inspiring because many of you have been pushing so much in work and what you do in your careers and end up in this burnout state and not knowing where to head and where to turn. So today we are going to be diving into all of this. Today we have Amayra. Did I pronounce that correct?
You got it.
Amazing. Okay. So Amayra has climbed the corporate ladder. She was in this for 10 plus years in the corporate world before her burnout ended up landing her in the hospital. Now, we have spoke about this before as well, where we do have signs of burnout before that, but we tend to not necessarily listen to them until it gets to an extreme point. And for this instance, it did end up landing Amayra in the hospital. So she was seeking answers for her symptoms. Like, why the heck did she end up in the hospital? What all of the symptoms, which we're going to dive into, why were they happening? What was going on? And so she visited numerous specialists who really prescribed so many ineffective medications, and it ended up leaving her feeling disempowered. Like, what the heck is going on with me? None of this is working. And she realized eventually that her corporate days were over, and she'd always had this dream of pursuing yoga. So she left and moved to India to pursue this dream of yoga practice. And as she was there in India, she actually became very sick again. And through going to a doctor that actually practiced Ayurvedic medicine, a medicine that she had never dove into, never experienced before, she went in for help. And to Amayra's amazement, this Ayurvedic doctor was able to connect these dots of her symptoms to actually give her a root cause of all of her symptoms instead of treating her for specifically what she had gone in, like the doctors had done previously. So she followed this doctor's protocols and she regained her health completely. And this inspired her to where she started studying and learning about Ayurvedic medicine and became an Ayurvedic doctor now herself. And she now runs a thriving Ayurvedic practice that helps women to reclaim their health and their happiness. So I am very excited to start speaking with you, Amayra, all about this entire story. So thank you very much for coming and joining us today.
Thank you, Andy. What a lovely introduction. And yeah, I am looking forward to sharing this journey with your audience. And, I hope it resonates with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many that I know that come to me for burnout, that I know that you see, we push, right? We push and we push and we push. And we think we're okay. We can push through this. We're strong. We're fighters. We really are. And we tend to ignore these signs. So let's dive back even before you ended up in the hospital. Now that you know what you do know, what were you experiencing? What were you doing that pushed you into burnout?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, like I was, in the corporate world for almost 10 years and it was amazing. No, I was climbing the corporate ladder and it felt great because it allowed me to live in a really privileged area of Sydney. I had really nice things and I went on a holiday, once a year. But I really lost myself in the corporate world. And, sooner or later, my body was going to let me know. So I left the corporate world because an opportunity came up to manage a photography studio, thinking that, that would be a piece of cake. And boy, was I wrong, because I was actually working longer hours in a very toxic environment and a place where many of their practices were actually quite questionable. So looking back now, I realized that I didn't really listen to the whispers of the universe. I ignored the little tap that came in the form of indigestion. I had a really weak immune system. I was often getting sick quite a lot. I had anxiety. I felt cold all the time. I had so much hair loss, like I literally couldn't run my fingers through my hair without just clumps of hair coming out, and mood swings, So then the universe gave me a little pinch, which came in the form of hypothyroid, insomnia. I was feeling tired all the time. I was quite stressed out. I had candida, parasites as well. I had really low body weight. At my lowest point, I ended up going down to 40 kilos. And I also had amenorrhea. So I lost my cycle for almost 8 months. And then, as you mentioned, I ended up in hospital because the universe then gave me a little slap across the face because I didn't listen to all these signs beforehand, and I landed in hospital due to burnout and a whole kind of host of mineral and vitamin deficiencies. And there's no bigger wake-up call than staring at the ceiling of the hospital room, kind of realizing that I had no one to blame but me. I was the one who created this mess because I had pushed my body to its absolute limit. And, well, now what? Well, then I ended up going from specialist to specialist. And I realized that the only solution seemed to be prescription medication. And even though I asked, like, why is this happening to me? One doctor didn't want to or weren't willing to get to the root cause. I'm not really sure. And now I don't want to come across as anti-modern medicine because modern medicine is excellent at treating acute conditions and trauma, but I do believe it fails in prevention of disease. I'm not sure if you agree with this, Andy.
Yeah, so we speak of this. You just said so many amazing things that I do want to touch on a lot of that, but exactly what you're saying now. There's what I've discovered too, and I went through this as well after coming out of my doctor and saying your markers are really, really low, and you're showing signs of Addison's disease, but you're not there yet. And I remember coming out of there thinking, wait a minute, I'm showing signs of a disease, but I'm not there yet. And you're going to keep an eye on me until I get there. And that's when you're going to step in. And I was very angry until I realized that their training is the reactive triage medicine, which we need, right? We do need. When you need surgery right away for something, we need that. When you like EMS, when a paramedic is working on somebody, they need to be reactive right away. When somebody's coming into an emergency room, we need their medicine right away. Same thing when we're talking about depression, when somebody is suicidal, absolutely those medications that can help and stop them from being suicidal. But then that's where we dive into that other side of medicine and being like, okay, why did they get to that point of being suicidal? Why did these diseases get to the point of needing that reactive triage medicine? So there's a time and a place for both. And I feel that the pressure has been put on our Western doctors to perform both when they're not trained in both. And that's where I think we need to really start diving into this other side of what I'd love to speak with you. Before we get there, though, I would love to dive a little more into some of your symptoms because, and when you said believe you said like you ignored them. Did you ever go to your doctor for one thing? Like maybe, I know for me, when I was having constant colds, it's to the point where a cough popped one of my ribs that I went to my doctor for that, and I was getting x-rays and figuring out what was going on. And so I was going for that. I did go to my doctor as well for gut issues. So did you go to your doctor for any individual, before your hospitalization, did you go to your doctor for any individual symptoms that you at that time did not know were linked together?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when I noticed that I was losing so much weight, like something is happening, no? And I didn't really, they picked up that there was some sort of malabsorption, but, maybe you should just have more protein. Your hair's falling out, have more protein, maybe have more collagen, no? And it was super interesting. One doctor said to me, yeah, you just seem to be losing a lot of weight. And it was wintertime in Sydney at that time. And he said, just grab a tub of ice cream and put that in the microwave, and you should be fine just to have that warm. And I was like, okay, so he's just thinking at it from a fat point of fact, increase of fat. That's going to make me put on weight, right?
Reactive thinking, because they're reactive medicine.
Exactly.
What thing can you do right now? Eat more protein, but it's not, why is your body not absorbing the protein you're eating?
Yeah. Exactly. And it turned out that I was just feeding my candida, right? My candida was like, yeah, I'm loving all this sugar, all this protein, all these starches that she's having. Amazing, no? And it never picked up as a candida symptom. So they were just like, oh, yeah,
we don't know, right?
Yeah.
We don't know. And I want to give you some grace in what you're saying as well, is you didn't know then that these symptoms, you didn't know then. Well, I'm not sure. Did you know? And for our audience, I'm going to ask you in a second to explain candida, but did you know what candida even was at that point in time? So
I had no idea. No,
right.
not at all.
And that's my hope with this as well, that people will start understanding, if you have been going to your doctor for sleep, for hair loss, for either excessive weight or underweight, for thyroid issues, for gut issues. I mean, the list goes on. For me, my hair was, I was getting, I'm in Canada, we have loonies, we have coins that are loonies, they're bigger than a quarter. And I was having loony sized spots in my head where it was out. Yeah. And I didn't know then that was stress, and that was my gut issues not absorbing nutrients, but it was all linked to all of these things. So hopefully somebody else knows. Do you mind, before you help us understand what candida is, do you mind going through your list of symptoms again, so that somebody who is now listening can sit there and think, just the ones you remember, because I know that there's probably more we're not going to remember.
Yeah.
But somebody who is listening can sit there and think, oh man, I thought these were all separate. Yeah. Do you mind doing that?
Yeah. Or it's just normal, right? People are constipated, and when you go to the doctor, and when I actually speak to my clients now and I say, but how often are you having bowel movements? And they're like, maybe like once every like 3-4 days. But my doctor said that's fine. It's fine. It's normal. And I'm like, but you're eating every day. They're like, yeah, like I'm having this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'm like, where do you think all that food is going? Like, no. So it's super, super interesting. But for me, I started to notice the indigestion. No? So just felt weird all the time. I was gassy, I was bloated, I was not going to having regular bowel movements, and my immune system was so weak. Like I said, I was getting sick quite often. So that was another sign, no? Just constantly like getting over a cold and then feeling so, and then on again, no? And I'm like, I'm having my ginger and I'm having my honey and my tea and it's still not working, no? And mood swings was a big one, no? I was living with a partner at that time, and we were just clashing all the time, no? So that was another huge sign for me. And hyperthyroid as well. So I just noticed that my heart was going crazy every now and then. That's when I actually went and had all these tests, and they said, yeah, actually you do have, you've got hyperthyroid. So I ended up taking Mercosol for that. So that was like 6 tablets a day. And I was like, wow, I'm just pumping all this stuff into my body, And then for everything else, it was like, oh yeah, take an antibiotic, you'll be fine. Oh, you're feeling like you can't sleep, I'll just take something to sleep. So there seemed to always be a solution, just never try and get to the root cause of this, no? And when I did ask, it was like, it's probably genetics, no? So yeah,
Yeah. And it's a reactive solution.
yeah,
Yeah. All
totally.
right. So do you mind, actually, two things? Do you mind filling us in on what is candida and
Mhm.
what is a hypothyroid issue,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Candida albicans live in our digestive system, and they live quite harmoniously with every other bacteria that's in there. Now, when they are triggered, and when you're having a diet that is probably quite high in sugar, starches, they tend to overgrow. And this overgrowth causes many things. Sometimes you will notice like a white layer on your tongue. Sometimes you might notice a little bit more mucus in general. And then for women, you might notice, irregular discharges where there's kind of, you start to get a little bit itchy, but a lot of it has to do with, you're just feeling really low energy as well. So for me, it was just a mixture of a lot of things, So more than likely, you'll go to your doctor, they'll do a test, and they'll say, yeah, it seems like you have candida overgrowth, and here is some prescription medication, no? But that's not really getting to the root cause. That's just kind of like a band-aid solution, no? So more than likely, you'll feel great for 2 weeks, and then you're back at square one, no? Because you haven't really addressed the issue, which is the overgrowth in your gut. And your gut in Ayurveda, as I know now, is kind of the hub of everything, So everything comes into that. So it was really interesting when I went to India and had this experience. One of the first things he's like, yeah, you've got candida. And I was like, what? I didn't even, like, doctors didn't do much about that. So yeah.
Yeah. And I know for me, when I had candida too, I craved sugar,
Oh,
that I
yeah,
would go and buy 2 chocolate bars and inhale them. I wouldn't even remember
yeah,
eating them. I
yeah,
would just inhale. I could not have anything that was carby. So any
yeah,
pastries, all of that was before I even knew I was gluten free. But I couldn't have breads or pastries because I would eat the whole thing. Didn't matter what it was. I needed starchy carbs or sugar all of the
yeah.
time. And I would literally sit in my house and think, I just want this sugar. I just want this sugar. I just want this sugar, to the point where I would get off my butt in the winter here and get bundled up and go to the store to go and get something to feed this, because that army of candida was so strong and they feed off of sugar and they were just craving it. And I was a personal trainer then. And I was like,
Mhm.
like, I love salads and all. And the cravings for salads went down and everything, because all I
Mhm.
wanted was sugar. All I wanted was carbs and sugar all the time. And it was
Mhm.
crazy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's,
And so this is when the doctor said, have more fats, have more sugar, have more carbs, have more starches. I was like, it kind of makes sense, right? I just eat more of that stuff, and I should be fine, But my digestive system was so out of whack that I wasn't absorbing anything. All I was doing was feeding the candida,
all right. So let's dive into the thyroid then. Please tell us about that.
Yeah, so we've all got a thyroid gland situated in our neck, and that kind of controls metabolism. So there is hyperthyroid and hypothyroid. So hypothyroid means when your thyroid gland is not working as it should be. So it's underperforming, and hyper means that it's overperforming. So when I started getting heart palpitations, I would be like a puppy, like running around the house having so much energy, and then boom, like I would be crashing. So I would just have a coffee, right? Coffee should be fine, keep my energy levels up. So it's a really important, function of metabolism in the body.
Yeah. And so we also hear Hashimoto's is sometimes
Mhm.
it's hypo, has Hashimoto's hypothyroid? Yes.
Yes, yes.
So hypothyroid can also be called Hashimoto's for those that are
Mhm.
listening as well.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right. So from there as well, like, we have all of these symptoms that, I mean, you didn't know that they were linked, and now you look back and you're like, man, had I known. So there are people listening to this that, if you know, right, that now you are learning these are linked, and there is a way to be diving into that.
yeah.
So for you, it was Ayurvedic medicine. That's how, like, and this is what I would like people to understand, is there are so many different solutions. Now, I have heard of Ayurvedic medicine, and it is one that I actually would like to delve into. So excited having you come on, because this
Yeah.
is what I would like to look for a practitioner in my area to start working with, unless I don't even know if you do work online. Like, we'll have to dive into all of this to
Yeah.
how to work, how you can work with an Ayurvedic practitioner as well.
Yeah.
But please tell us then, I guess let's use your story through this as well. So you
Yeah.
went to this practitioner because you were sick. What did you go in for? And how did it actually turn out in that first appointment?
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe I'll go back a little bit. So
Yes.
I kind of was, managing this photography studio, and I kind of looked around and just saw people higher up than me, and I saw that they were working long hours, that they weren't spending that much time with their family. There was probably the increase of alcohol, coffee, just, constantly in their system. And I really started to question every aspect of my whole existence, because whatever I was doing wasn't working. And did I want to go down that road? Did I want to be working so long, so many hours? And yeah, I started really to question, every aspect of my whole existence, And I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine and telling him, what I was going through. And he said, well, it's kind of on you, isn't it? Do you think each specialist is going home to their Bondi mansion thinking about Amayra Morales? No, you're just a dollar sign to them. And they're going home to their family, sitting on their balcony, having a beautiful dinner on their Vera Wang plates, overlooking their amazing view, and thinking just how amazing life is, while you're sitting here becoming increasingly frustrated and resentful with your body because it's not working correctly. And that was kind of the real shock that I needed, because my job was making me sick. I was going through a breakup. I wasn't enjoying where I was living. And I started to question everything. Is there more to life than going to uni, getting a job, having a family, waiting for my 4 weeks of annual leave a year, sitting in a nursing home, and then moving on? And like I said, then I looked around the studio and saw people higher up than me working overtime, having all these responsibilities. And it's not really where I wanted to be heading. So I remember feeling kind of angry. I had lost motivation overall and satisfaction in my job, And I realized one day that I actually don't care about this at all. Like, maybe once upon a time when I started the job, I had so much energy and enthusiasm, and I really enjoyed creating these beautiful memories for their family. But right now, like, I really don't care. So a week later, I resigned. And 6 weeks after that, I was on a plane to India to fulfill this huge desire, as you mentioned, to become a yoga teacher. And venturing into the unknown was scary and exciting. And then 4 weeks after that, as you mentioned, I got really, really sick. And through a series of fortunate events, I ended up at an Ayurvedic clinic. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for me, because within that 1.5 hour consultation with this beautiful Indian doctor, he delivered the news to me, and he outlined all my symptoms without me really giving him that much information. He took my pulse, he read my tongue, asked me a few random questions, and he said, okay, well, you have 2 options. You can keep going in the same direction and be faced with a future of infertility, Alzheimer's, or arthritis, or you can actually start taking, action today. And it was a no-brainer, because I had spent so much time and money and energy in Sydney kind of going around in circles with specialists. So then I checked into his 21-day, it's called a panchakarma, which is like a detox program at his spa. And it's like no Hilton experience at all. So it's probably like one of the most difficult things I've done, next to Vipassana and ayahuasca ceremonies. And it was challenging because it required me to be still, to be present, and to reflect. So the detox process itself is not easy, because you're kind of removing toxins from the body. but you're also removing many different aspects of your life as well, and things come up, emotions come up, relationships, friendships, old habits, thought patterns. But I remember within 2 weeks, I started to feel so much better. My skin cleared up. I was sleeping a lot better. I was digesting my food properly, and I had so much energy. And I was like, wow, that's within 2 weeks. And I know, obviously, like one of the first things that he tackled was my sleep. Because according to Ayurveda, sleep is more important than nutrition and exercise combined. Because while we sleep, it's the most restorative part and the healing part of the whole day. It restores your muscles, it detoxifies your body, it balances your hormones, it relaxes your mind, and it actually prepares your body for the next day. So interestingly enough, that's kind of like the first thing then that he tackled.
Amazing. Yeah. So I do want to, there's so much you just said that was amazing. What you just said though, sleep, like, and this is one that so far I know I did in the first couple of episodes when I was doing solo episodes, but in my interviews so far, we have not tackled that sleep and the importance of sleep. And it is one that I definitely want to be diving into more, because as my work has done too, like sleep deprivation. Oh man, just 2 hours of less sleep in one night, what that can do to somebody. And then long-term, 3 months being chronic sleep deprivation of getting 6 hours or less a night, which is just what a lot of people get, especially in the corporate world. I used to work downtown Toronto, and I used to work in Japan in downtown, and they, all of my corporate clients like hardly slept. Like 5 to 6 hours was a good night's sleep. And the health issues and all of those things that arose from that are just absolutely amazing, like just astronomical, that we do need to make sure that we are putting sleep as such a priority. And that does make, I know my husband and I, there are times my kids go to bed and we will just follow them right into our bed at 8:30 at night. And it may make us the most boring couple in the world, but we are happy, we are healthy, we have energy for our kids, we have energy to get things done in our day. And we have such a great family dynamic because we do put sleep as the priority. Which is amazing.
And I think people think like, and we've got phrases like, the other day I was looking through Netflix and there was a documentary called I'll Sleep When I Die. So we have this notion that, sleeping is actually not that important, but it is so vital for our health. And if we only started to focus more on that, started to have a sleep routine, have practices in place for us to actually have this solid sleep, like your health would dramatically improve.
I've worked with first responders since 2018. So we're working with shift work, we're working with 24-hour shifts, working all over. And being able to, even though there are times they are not able to get the 6 hours sleep, when we started making sure that the quality of sleep that they did get when they are able to sleep, and then on their days off or on when they are able to get the 8 hours or more of sleep, we made sure that it was really good quality sleep and worked on that quality. Their suicidal tendencies decreased. It's absolutely amazing just how important sleep does play in so much of what we do. I know I could hear you and I could go on with this forever. Focusing on your story for sure, so that we can really help people understand more of what it is that you do. So let's go back to that clinic with this doctor. What did you go in there for? And how was that hour and a half, I guess, the questions and stuff different than it would be going to a Western, I'm saying a Western doctor because I'm North America. I mean, Australia, you still call them Western doctors in Australia? Okay. So it's just funny. Like I'm thinking of the globe. So thinking of when we go, the time frame that we get for an initial time with our Western doctor versus this time you had an hour and a half with this doctor. Can you explain how that experience went, like what you went in for and how it was so different than our Western?
Yeah, so I actually made a reel about this about 2 weeks ago, because going to each specialist appointment, they're pumping clients like, I don't know, there's like 10 clients a day that they have to get through, right? So it often felt like every time I was at a specialist appointment, it felt like I was going through a drive-through,
Yes.
It was
Yes.
so fast. Like, yeah, you've got this. Oh, your tests look normal. You should be fine. Here is some medication, no? Whereas when you go to a holistic kind of approach, such as probably, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, or any, systems like that, we look at the overall picture. No, so we don't just isolate one area and say, okay, the liver, okay, you need to do this, right? So liver is attached to emotions, anger, frustration. So we look at like, okay, so what are the things in your life that you're angry about? What are the things that you're frustrated about? Because I can treat that. I can give you some lovely herbs and some supplements, and that's it, right? But Ayurveda kind of looks at the whole picture. So he started asking me questions, and I think halfway through the consult, I almost felt like walking out because I'm like, how are these questions relevant? But they're so relevant in the scheme of things because now I actually start to ask my clients as well to get an overall perspective on their health. Like, what are your parents' health history like? What are your dreams like? What foods do you crave? So are you happy in life? So when he started asking me all these questions, I was like, I think this is a little too woo-woo for me. And I'm kind of like not into and not vibing whatever he's getting through. But then when he started outlining, like, so I bet you've got gas and you're bloated and you're constipated and you have racing thoughts. And I was like, wow, like, how does he know all of this? But all these questions are leading him to really find out your constitution, which is your energy type in Ayurveda. And then once we work out your energy type, we can actually start to prepare, like, a meal plan, prepare a lifestyle change. So it all made sense in the end, no? But I don't do pulse reading, like that's like next level Ayurveda, but he just took my pulse reading and he's like, oh, okay, so yeah, you seem to have you had hypothyroid, it's still probably, and I was like, wow, okay, there's some magic into this, no? So yeah, very different to a Western approach for sure.
Absolutely. So after that appointment,
Mhm.
did the 21-day cleanse, then what did you do after that? What was after?
Yeah, so I kind of hung around in Dharamshala because I just felt like I had so much to learn from him, and
Mm,
in general to learn from Ayurveda, and to be in that particular part of the world was very uplifting for me. um, you know, where the Dalai Lama kind of resides. There's kind of meditation centers. So I felt kind of connected to this part of the world. So I kind of just rented a place and hung out there. And I started doing more Ayurvedic treatments, going to more like of his consults, reading a lot more on Ayurveda. And I remember like one day sitting in my room and just realizing like, wow, this is like, and I started crying because this was the first time I felt connected to my body.
mm.
And I thought to myself, surely I'm not the only one going through this. And if I'm going through this, many other people are going through this. So in this midst of tears, like running down my face, I said, like, one day I'm going to be an Ayurvedic practitioner and I really want to help people because Western medicine wasn't helping me. So, and I want to let them know about this beautiful science that is out there.
Amazing. So did you stay there to study? Like, how do you study Ayurvedic?
Yeah, so I didn't study. So I did like mini courses, like, I don't know, like, how to eat Ayurvedic, but I started like just absorbing more information. So listening to podcasts, doing master classes, just reading up on a lot more of it. And at that time, he wasn't doing any courses. He was just doing his detox programs and doing consultations. Now he's got this amazing practice in Dharamshala where he's like teaching online, he's teaching in-house, he's got his practice, he's got his cooking school. So he's just really like developed this beautiful program. So yeah, I just kind of stayed there. And then eventually I made it back to Sydney because I was like, okay, time to go back home. And then I actually enrolled in Ayurveda school. So that's when I was like, wow. Like, and I did basically just focusing on the digestive system.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so from there, then you've done that. And I know now you're working with like amazing women who also were stuck like yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I had no intention of turning my studies of Ayurveda into a business. Like for me, it was just like knowledge. Like I want to learn more, I want to absorb all this knowledge. And I didn't know what to do with it because I saw the corporate world so far away from me, and I was never going to go back into the photography field ever again. So I just thought, and this was when the pandemic hit. So I was studying throughout all of that. And never thought that I could turn it into a business, no. But then I started like offering help to friends, to families. They were telling their friends, and suddenly people were coming to me saying like, hey, I just saw your post about like constipation, and I've been really struggling with that. Or hey, I've just noticed your post about sleeping, because everything that I was learning I was kind of posting on my personal Facebook page, and people were like, hey, I'm kind of struggling with that. And I realized that like, okay, there's something happening here. Like people are coming for advice or wanting some guidance, or kind of really like saying, I really relate to that. So then I spoke to a friend of mine, and she's like, you could probably turn this into a business. And I was like, wow, okay. And this was when people were getting sick, they were going through a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, not sleeping well, kind of very worried about the future of and where life was heading. So then I hired a business coach who really like accelerated all of this. And so now I help women who are on their way to burnout, or kind of dancing around there, and giving them tools. No, so I have a 3-month program, which is really like a blueprint for them to have all the tools to help themselves to avoid burnout.
Amazing. That's so amazing. So it's
Yeah.
just fascinating how you have really come full circle without even
Mm.
meaning to, that it just became a business. That's actually how I got into burnout as well.
Mm.
Same
Mhm.
thing is, I started helping my husband's colleagues who are police officers,
Yeah.
and then it expanded to where then I was helping. It became like North America, UK. I do have a couple in Australia, but I do find the time difference a little
Yes.
interesting at times too. So, yeah, it's funny how, because I can't get enough, that is my background is as personal training, and I liked learning it and I love the body. But as soon as I got into burnout and the nervous system and the gut and just the sleep and all of these things, like I can't get enough of it. Like I'm constantly more courses, more learning, more, like I can't get enough of it either. It's that thing where it becomes your passion, where you just love it. And
Mhm.
it's just what you want to do all the time. And then people start coming to you. So that's absolutely amazing. Um,
Mhm.
so Amida, I know this has been super helpful for everybody that is listening to this. Before we do go, um, I would like you to, I will put in the show notes everywhere that people can find you. So
Mhm.
first off, let's let people know where to find you. And then I'm going to ask you one more question. So where can people?
Yeah. Sure. So I love to hang out in my private Facebook group, Ayurveda for Professional Women. So this is where I kind of love to hang out, because I share many tips, recipes, ways to calm down the monkey mind. Otherwise, you can connect with me in my personal Facebook page, Amayra Morales as well. I'm not so active on Instagram. I probably should be, but Facebook is mainly where I hang out.
Amazing. All right. And I do have those links, and we will have all of those in the.
Mm-hmm.
So before we do go,
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of different questions in my mind. So the thing is, and this has actually been a common theme
Yeah.
that we have been realizing is same situation with you as well, is we didn't know the signs that we're here now. So now, hopefully this has been so amazing for people to understand the signs.
Mm-hmm.
Once they do start seeing this connection in the signs, what advice would you give them? What steps to do next?
Yeah. So I think for me, what really worked, you can, I guess, go to what I prefer now is like a functional doctor, right? And I think I love the rise of these holistic approaches to modern medicine. No? So go to your doctor, have a chat to them, but also get a second opinion from somebody who's practicing a holistic approach, right? I had no idea that all these things were connected to what we call in Ayurveda a vata imbalance, no? So I think once you kind of discover all of this, you'll get a clearer understanding. And it's also good to know the different phases of burnout, no? Maybe you might not feel any of these symptoms, but maybe your brother, your mum, your dad, your friend, no? So it is about, and I think people think that it all comes down to self-care, and it's not, for me, it's not that. And I think self-care as well, people think that, oh yeah, but I got my nails done last week. That's kind of self-care. Or, I spent half a day at the spa. Isn't that self-care? And it's not really, no? So what I really want people to start focusing more on is, people think that burnout will kind of fade, and it's about really looking at self-care from a different point of view, so incorporating a nighttime routine, going to bed at the same time, nourishing your body, movement. Self-care really requires a bubble of protection of other people who value your well-being as much as you do. So I had a particular client who said to me, I'm finding it really difficult voicing this to my family. And I said, they're the ones who are actually going to help you through this. Have a family meeting, sit down with them and just say, look, I'm really struggling at the moment, and I really just need your just your care, your just nourishment from you. And that was a lot for her to go through, to actually voice it. But I think voicing all of these things are really important.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the voice and boundaries and
Mm-hmm.
things that are very, very common in people that do end up in burnout. And
Mm-hmm.
it's where we're always helping others, always giving to others, and putting our needs less. And that, as you said, putting our needs doesn't mean go spend a day at a spa or do this. It's actually like your daily needs, and setting
Mm-hmm.
boundaries on things and using your voice. And it
Yeah.
is not easy to, the things that are actually going to get you out of burnout are not easy, because it is things like getting a voice, setting
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, learning different ways of communicating in order
Mm-hmm.
to do that. And then the way of nourishing your body, as you're saying, of making sure that that your gut is working, that you're able to absorb all the vitamins and minerals, that your body isn't holding in all of the gunk from the food, like the toxins or the bad things from this food in your gut and constipation, or
Mm-hmm.
you're not exploding out with diarrhea all the time. Like making sure that your system is working correct. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with the day at the spa. There's nothing wrong with doing all of these amazing things that people do mention with self-care. But if your system, if your gallbladder, your gut, your breathing is not working the way that it is supposed to maximize your health and your ability and your energy and how you're feeling, then all of those other things are not going to benefit you. Or they're like help me out with this. I'm thinking of, that's like a dessert. They're not the meal kind of
Yeah.
thing. We need to
Yeah.
make sure that we have the meal first before we give ourselves that dessert, which the dessert doesn't really add to the nutritional value of our meal. So that's
Yeah.
where all the spas and, getting your nails done and all of those things are the dessert. We need to first focus on that meal.
Yeah, and I think as well, constantly checking in with yourself, no? And this is, we're kind of a little bit disconnected from our bodies. Like, and this was one of my issues, when I went to this Ayurvedic clinic, he's like, you're living up here, like constantly in your head, no? Racing thoughts, not sleeping well, like overthinking, no? That you really have lost that connection with your body. And so once I started, like, and now I get my clients, how was your sleep? How did you wake up in the morning? What are your energy levels like when you wake up? How did that food sit in your belly after that particular meal? How are your stress levels today? And a lot of, like, at the beginning of the program, women are like, oh, I really don't know how that sat in my body. And I'm like, tune in, because now we know which foods really work for you and which don't. So it's really about coming back into connection with your body, and checking in. So when they work with me, I say, like, okay, where was your stress levels at today? It was at 8. Okay. And then maybe like 3 weeks later, and it was at a 4. And I'm like, great. So you're making improvements, no? So it's constantly like checking in with the body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that being said, then if somebody does want to work with you,
Mhm.
is it, can you do this online with anybody anywhere in the world? Are you in person? How do you work?
Yeah, so I'm living in the magical Sacred Valley of Peru, but most of my consults are done online. So I have a 3-month program or a like 1-month quick realignment. So basically, what we do is we have a chat at the beginning, and then we see which option is best for you. Sometimes when I feel like there's only small tweaks that you could do, I just work with you 1 month. But some women really want that hands-on approach for the next 3 months. So my program is called Cleanse, Nourish, Balance, and yeah. That's kind of me in a nutshell.
Amazing. All right.
Yeah.
So all of the links for Amayra are in the show notes down below. So definitely go there, follow her on Facebook and maybe on Instagram as well, a little bit, but follow her mainly on Facebook. Get into her group if this interests you. Start learning more about the Ayurvedic way as well. As we've talked about, there are so many different pieces to this puzzle of burnout,
Mhm.
and Ayurvedic may be the one for you. So if you started listening to this and it starts resonating with you, then start checking out Ayurvedic. Start looking into Amada. I know for myself, I am going to start learning a little more. I know I did a course like probably 10, 15 years ago on Ayurvedic, but I wasn't in a mind space of truly understanding its potential and what it could do. That I'd like to start revisiting that again, because I'm sure that there are golden nuggets and pieces from it that will definitely help me even more to get my body back to full strength. So
Yeah, and Ayurveda can be quite complex and overwhelming. And this is
yes,
something that turns people off Ayurveda. But, when I work with my clients, I encourage just small tweaks with long-lasting results. No, I think sometimes when they've gone to other practitioners, like, oh, this is like what your daily routine looks like, and people are like, well, like,
that
what
can
time?
be any practitioner as well.
Yeah.
Right? I have worked with many different holistic practitioners as well. And some of them just throw the whole sink at you because they want to
Mhm.
help you right away. And I am going to admit that I'm guilty of this sometimes, where
Mhm.
I will be working with a client. And because I've been doing this for so long, I
Mhm.
see all of the stuff that they can fix, and I want it all fixed right now. I throw too much at them. And I know that there's times where I've had to go back to a client and be like, okay, wait, I got really excited. I need to just stop for a second. And I threw too much at you. What
Mhm.
of what we threw at do you feel you are able to and willing and able and want to work on first? And
Yeah.
let's go from there. Let's start working
Yeah.
on that. And that's where I feel that um, I think all practitioners can be guilty of that. And it's hard because we do want to help our clients, definitely. And we want to make sure that they um, are getting the best help, but we do have to move at a pace that works for habits, that actually does help them to gain those habits at a time that works for them.
Yeah, totally. And that was me at the beginning as well. Like I was like, here, this is what your daily routine should look like, and blah, blah. And people were like, what time am I going to wake up to do like the whole morning routine? No? Because and now I've learned as well, no? And I learned that I was also burning myself out at the beginning of this business journey as well, because friends and family were coming to me and I was giving them this amazing like meal plan, these practices and stuff. And at the end, I would hear crickets, no? And they wouldn't come back to me or anything. And then, or then even worse, you know, they might come back to me in like 6 months and say, yeah, like, what else can I do? And I'm like, well, have you put all that stuff into practice? And they were like, no, like, because I was kind of wanting like supplements or I don't know, herbs. And I realized that I was burning myself out. So I started putting boundaries into that as well. So if you are a new health coach and you're listening to this, set those boundaries from the beginning, because now I just say, look, for me to help you, come onto my Set More link, set a time, pay for your consultation, and then we can actually work together, no? Because you will burn out yourself out, because you want to help everybody. You want to be there for everybody, but at the end, you're going to burn yourself out. So have boundaries in place, you know, before you start this business journey.
Absolutely. And I know, okay, we are going to end this after this one, but that is compassion fatigue as well. It's where we get compassion fatigue. And I know many that are listening, the responders, compassion fatigue is huge, because that's what you do every day, is care for other people. That one of the courses that I did was phenomenal in saying, okay, let's say you have 10 units of compassion to give to somebody. You always give 1 unit less. And at first I thought, wait a minute, that's horrible. How can I give somebody 1 unit less of compassion, of like energy into what we're doing? And then I started realizing that I would be throwing so much at them and wanting to help them and wanting them to make the change, but they have to make the change first. That when they make the change, they're like, okay, what can I do next? Then I give them the next step. And they're like, okay, I can do the next step. Okay, let's work on the step. And I started realizing that even once I slowed down how much I was giving, I was actually in return getting well, not burning myself out, but I was also, the clients were going at a pace that worked for them, and they were putting it in the work at a pace that worked for them, not my expectations of the pace that they should be going for.
100%.
Makes such a difference.
Yeah.
Great. So everybody go down into the show notes, go and check the links for Amayra's social media, and definitely keep in touch with her there if you want as well. Down in the show notes are all of my social media links. My work with everybody is at burnoutexpert.ca. My work with first responders is 911lifestyle.com. All of the links can be shown in the show notes here. Thank you, everybody. Definitely subscribe to this podcast. The more people that are subscribed, the more people that follow us, the more people that are actually shown this podcast. So this is a newer one for me. I do have the first responder one. This is my newer podcast. So please definitely work at getting this out to more people. It will definitely help many. So thank you. And we will see you in the next episode.